Motorcycle gangs have gained a reputation for being some of the meanest, toughest, and most violent people on the road. The worst of the gangs are known as OMG's Big Four. They are Hells Angels MC, Outlaws MC, Pagans MC, and Bandidos MC. According to William Delaney, the term outlaw originally meant simply a club that was not formally organized under the auspices of the American Motorcycle Association, AMA. However, the term has now extended to include bikers engaged in illegal commerce, such as drug dealing and money laundering. The OMG culture is believed to have originated in 1947 after the infamous July 4th riots in Hollister, California. Motorcyclists allegedly started causing trouble and damaging property after local races. The New York Times article describes 36 hours of rioting as the cyclists practically took over the city. More modern research has questioned the validity of these claims, but it was on that day that the OMG culture, according to William Delaney, was born. OMG's Big Four, Hells Angels, Outlaws, Pagans and Bandidos, are infamous for the heights they have taken biker gang culture to. They are all deadly rivals who have fought and even killed each other and are considered highly structured criminal organizations by the Justice Department. This is the untold truth about the Big Four motorcycle gangs. They are all 1%. While each of the Big Four outlaw motorcycle gangs, OMGs, are independent of each other and have their own unique characteristics, they share some common traits with outlaw gangs. One of the biggest ones is that they are all considered 1%. The history of the term 1% has its origins in the same Hollister riots that gave rise to the OMG culture. According to a 2014 article on OMG, the term 1% was first used by the American Motorcycle Association, AMA, in 1947. The AMA claimed that the OMG culture on display in Hollister is representative of only 1% of all motorcycle clubs, MCs. The remaining 99% of the MK consisted of law-abiding citizens who were not interested in drunken riots or vandalism. Outlaw biker gangs quickly seized on the phrase and began to attribute it to themselves. Many of them have stylized 1%er patches along with their MC's name. Today, the term 1%er is synonymous with the production, distribution, and sale of methamphetamine, prostitution, contract violence, racketeering and motorcycle theft. According to Delaney, the Hells Angels were the first OMG to use the term to describe themselves, but now nearly every outlaw motorcycle club considers itself 1%. However, he argues that most 1% clubs are not really involved in criminal activities, and the term can only be accurately applied to a small minority of members of the OMG. All Big Four clubs, with the exception of Pagans MC, have international chapters. While it may seem standard to associate the motorcycle gang, OMG, outlaw lifestyle with only America, today they are an international phenomenon. According to the Hells Angels MC website, they alone have 467 charters spread across 59 countries and 5 continents. The world map shows that they operate in regions as diverse as Namibia, Egypt, Uruguay, New Zealand, and Russia, and even have prospects in Southeast Asia, Indonesia and the Philippines. Their first international branch was opened in Auckland, New Zealand in 1961, and by 1970 it was in Zurich. On the list of branches, Outlaws MC has over 30 international branches, including at least one each in the Czech Republic, Serbia, Brazil, Montenegro, and Thailand. Bandidos MC also has a global presence, with charters in Israel, Belgium, Italy, and Ukraine. Pagans MC is the only one of the Big Four that does not have an international presence, as they prefer to consolidate their control inside America. The Hells Angels and the Bandidos were in conflict in Scandinavia. The global outlawing of motorcycle gangs, MOGs, has had unfortunate consequences. In the mid-1990s, the Hells Angels MC and Bandidos MC entered into a vicious war across Scandinavia. It all started in 1973, when Willem van Boxtel created a local biker gang in the eastern part of Amsterdam, based on the book Angels of Death, inside the criminal empire of biker gangs. By 1977, the gang had gained promising status in the official Hells Angels MC organization, and in October 1978 they became full members, having received the go-ahead from Hells Angels president Sonny Barger himself. Willem immediately set himself 2 tasks: to expand his empire and to control the drug trade. However, towards the end of 1993, the rival organization Bandidos MC began to establish their own chapters in Scandinavia to compete with the Hells Angels. Initially, the Angels were not opposed to the limited presence of Bandido, but after a few months, the first blood was shed. Soon rival MCs were arming themselves with ammunition intended for civilian militias. In June 1997, the Hells Angels bombed the Bandidos club building, but inadvertently killed a passing civilian, according to the Associated Press. This led to a peace agreement between the two factions in September of that year, which finally ended the bloody war, according to The Independent. The war resulted in over 400 violent incidents, 11 deaths, over 100 injuries and at least 74 assassination attempts. A shocking level of violence for Scandinavia. All of them do charity work. The first thought that comes to mind when a person thinks of outlaw motorcycle gangs, OMGs, is most likely not charity. Surprisingly, however, all of the big four CMGs have chapters that are actively involved in philanthropy and help charities. According to a CNBC report, in 2014, Fresno, California-based Hells Angels MC bought 200 bikes from a local Walmart and donated them to Poverello House, a local nonprofit organization that helps homeless and underprivileged families. In 2021, Outlaws MC in Gulf Coast, Florida participated in an outerwear drive that raised over 1,000 coats and $2,300 for families for Christmas, via Pensacola News-Journal. Outlaws from all over Florida took part in the coat drive, including members from Jacksonville who only came to take part in the fundraiser. In 2020, the Pagans MC chapter donated many donated school supplies to Southside Elementary School in Huntington, West Virginia, adapted from the Herald-Dispatch. The Bandidos MC also have chapters involved in charitable causes, including a chapter in Spokane, Washington, which has donated tons of merchandise to the local Salvation Army, adapted from the Spokesman Review. However, there are still those who are skeptical about OMG's commitment to real philanthropy. According to the Chicago Tribune, in 2016, when the Chicago chapter of the Angels attempted to organize weekly bike nights to raise funds for a local school, authorities immediately sounded the alarm and harassed the bikers during the event. Hells Angels MC are suing Toys R Us over the Death's Head logo. In one of the strangest and comical episodes of Hells Angels MC history, in 2012 they sued the well-known American store Toys R Us and Yomega, the yo-yo manufacturer. The lawsuit alleged that Yomega and Toys R Us violated the Hells Angels Death Head logo by putting a similar logo on their yo-yos and selling them. The Angels sought damages for fraud, malice, and gross negligence. Yomega and Toys R Us countersued the Angels, stating that the Angels originally obtained the trademark under false pretenses and therefore it is fraudulent and invalid. They demanded the cancellation of the Angels' trademarks and payment of attorney's fees and court costs. The case was settled out of court in 2013, and the terms are now known. At that time, the Death's Head trademark registration was still in effect, and the yo-yo was still sold, writes Mentz. In 2013, the Angels also sued Young Jeezy for using the same logo, and the case was eventually settled out of court for an undisclosed amount, according to TMZ. Since the 1990s, Hells Angels MK has filed several lawsuits against local city governments in Colorado and California, earning millions from it. In 1999, members of the Hells Angels filed a lawsuit against the cities of San Jose and Santa Clara in California. The lawsuit alleged that the police departments of these cities killed 3 angel dogs and took trucks with things from their homes after a search, writes SFGate. In 2006, the city of San Jose paid $800,000, the city of Santa Clara $50,000, and Santa Clara County $990,000, totaling over $1.8 million. While the Colorado settlements were not as large in monetary terms, they were more numerous. A 2020 The Denver Post article about a new Hells Angels lawsuit against Colorado police notes that in 2002, the police paid an Angels member $50,000 after alleging excessive use of force. In 2008, the city entered into a $14,000 settlement with another member of the Angels after an illegal stop on the road, writes the Denver Post. In 2020, 5 different Colorado police agencies pooled $25,000 for an Angels member after security footage showed them joking about his murder, according to the Associated Press. Entire countries have banned them. You may have been banned from a sports stadium or restaurant for bad behavior, but can you imagine being banned from an entire country? This is exactly what happened to Bandidos MC and Hells Angels MC in Europe. Outlaw motorcycle gangs, OMGs, have been steadily increasing their presence and criminal activity across Europe since 2005, according to European law enforcement agency Europol. They allege that the OMG use firearms and grenades to forcefully impose their rule, and are also heavily involved in drug trafficking, murder, money laundering and extortion. In 1999, Belgium became the first European country to take a step towards banning HMG by declaring Hells Angels illegal within its borders, according to the BBC. A Belgian court has ruled that the Angels are a private militia, which is illegal under Belgian law. The Netherlands also banned Hells Angels nationwide in 2019, citing them as a danger to public order. In 2021, Germany banned the Bandidos MC in the country and disbanded them as an organization, according to the Anadolu Agency. Recent police raids have unearthed many illegal items, including firearms and illegal drugs. The Bandidos have been operating in Germany since 1999 and have expanded greatly in 2 decades. Hells Angels MC, Outlaws MC, and Bandidos MC fought the conflict in Canada. As part of their international expansion, both the Hells Angels MC and the Outlaws MC chose Canada as a place to start new clubs in the 1970s. According to Stephen Schneider and Iced, A History of Organized Crime in Canada, the Hells Angels first appeared in Canada in 1977 and began operating in Quebec, Nova Scotia, and British Columbia. They were quickly followed by Outlaws, who created rival clubs in Ontario and Quebec. For 2 years, Outland and the Angels feuded in Ontario and Quebec. By the end of 1984, 62 bikers associated with either the Outlaws or the Hells Angels had died in violence. At that time, the Angels firmly controlled British Columbia and Quebec, while the Outlaws firmly claimed Ontario. In 1994, hostilities broke out again between the Angels and another group known as the Alliance over the control of the illegal drug trade, writes the Montreal Gazette. By 1999, the Angels had defeated the Alliance, but a new threat quickly arose. In 2001, rival faction Rock Machine MC got patched up and joined the Bandidos MC and they started fighting the Angels. The Canadian police have finally put an end to this struggle with several major police operations codenamed Amigo, Resignation, and Springtime. After another series of killings, the Bandidos withdrew from Canada in 2008, leaving the Angels victorious. According to Vice Canada, Bandidos MC and Hells Angels MC were in conflict in Germany. Another notable area of outlaw motorcycle gang, OMG, expansion was Germany, where the Bandidos MC and Hells Angels MC vied for the highest title. According to Spiegel International, Germany was considered the territory of the Angels until 1999, when the Bandidos began to come there. The Angels defended their territory in Berlin, while the Bandidos infiltrated neighboring Brandenburg. Violence was widespread and several people were killed in the fighting. In 2008, 2 members of the Bandidos were sentenced to life in prison for killing Angel, Deutsche Welle. A month later, 3 Hells Angels were sentenced to prison terms for beating 5 Bandidos and robbing them, Deutsche Welle. According to the local, in October 2009, a Hells Angels sympathizer shot and killed a Bandidos member outside his clubhouse. A month later, in November, a group of Hells Angels destroyed the building of the Bandidos Club during a fight. The Bandidos responded by throwing a grenade at the Angels clubhouse a few hours later, but thankfully it didn't explode and no one was hurt. In 2010, the Bandidos and the Hells Angels allegedly signed a truce to stop the violence, according to Spiegel International. However, in 2015, another firefight involving the Angels and the Bandidos once again heightened fears about a new OMG war, according to the local. Although most people associate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, with the mafia and organized crime, prosecutors have begun to use it as a tool in an attempt to destroy outlaw motorcycle gangs, OMGs. According to Middle Tennessee State University, prosecutors are using RICO to treat organized crime syndicates as businesses that can be legally charged with criminal offenses. In one of the first RICO cases against organized crime groups, in 1985, police from 11 different states jointly filed charges against Hells Angels MC. According to the New York Times, 100 Angels were arrested on racketeering and drug trafficking charges. In 2017, several Angels were charged with racketeer conspiracy over RICO. In 2018, 2 high-ranking Bandidos MC members were convicted by a federal jury on RICO charges, according to the Department of Justice. In addition, they were also convicted of violent crimes in aid of racketeering, vicar, extortion, murder, and a number of other charges. In June 2021, several Pagans MC members were charged with RICO and other crimes. Among the defendants were Pagans National President Keith Conan Richter, as well as President of Presidents Maurice Doug Guzman. As a result, Richter was sentenced to 33 months in prison on weapons charges in October of that year. Outlaw motorcycle gangs, OMGs, are involved in a range of illegal activities, one of the most notorious of which is money laundering. According to the Financial Crime Enforcement Network, FinCEN, money laundering is a technique used by criminals to manipulate financial systems and assets by disguising illegally obtained funds as legitimately received. According to a 1991 Bureau of Organized Crime and Criminal Intelligence report, organized crime groups used a variety of different sources to launder their illicit money. In the western United States, they used everything: interior decorating companies, locksmiths, and even pizzerias. In the central U.S., They used beauty salons and horse ranches. And on the East Coast, they used vending machine companies and lawn care services. Everywhere money laundering through real estate was a serious problem. In 2013, several members of the Hells Angels were convicted of money laundering, along with many other crimes, in South Carolina, according to the FBI. And in 2017, the Justice Department indicted 2 members of the Hells Angels for money laundering in southern New York. The illegal activities of outlaw motorcycle gangs, OMGs, are largely linked to drug trafficking, according to a 1991 report by the Bureau of Organized Crime and Criminal Intelligence. Drug trafficking provides GMOs with the most consistent source of income. In the U.S., OMGs tend to be heavily trafficked in methamphetamine on the West Coast and cocaine in the Midwest and East Coast. Internationally, they distribute amphetamines in Europe and cocaine and methamphetamine in Canada. The authors of the report estimate that by 1990 organized crime groups controlled 75% of the methamphetamine trade. According to the Department of Justice, each of the Big Four specializes in the drug trade. Bandidos MC deal with cocaine, marijuana, and methamphetamine. Hells Angels MC also distribute LSD, ecstasy, and PCP. And Pagans MC and Outlaws MC also specialize in cocaine, marijuana, and methamphetamine. The drug trade remains one of the main sources of income for OMG today, but it also constantly leads to arrests of OMG members. In 2015, 8 members of the Bandidos MC were charged with drug trafficking in Denver, according to Fox. In 2021, during a raid on Outlaws MC in Kingston, Ontario, large amounts of fentanyl and cocaine were found, according to Global News. Now you know more. Leave comments. Subscribe. There is a lot of interesting things ahead. Thank you for your attention.